Okay, welcome to the show, Nikkole Hall. You're a Creole-American singer and songwriter, playing the Pink Baby grand piano from the tender age of 2. Your abilities and passion for music continued through school, glee clubs, school bands. Your inspiration for music that you produce today stems from your growing up as a child of the 80s. You've had 5 studio albums since 2001, all of which achieved great success. And you're also building your independent powerhouse label. Most recently, you've been working with legendary music producer Leon Silvers III on your album Vulnerable, which was released last November. So there's loads more to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us, Nikkole, and please tell us more.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and, talk about music and all things that are exciting to me. I'm just really in a good place right now with this 5th studio album, Vulnerable. Just some good things that are happening at this point. The first single, All Mine, is up for a Hollywood Music and Media nomination for Best Original Song. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Nice. I find out about that on the 16th. We'll go to the ceremony. It should be fun. And yes, and the second single, We Can Make It If We Try, is up for Best Video with Hollywood Music and Media Awards. And then to top that off, I'm in the first phase of Grammy consideration for the album Vulnerable and Best R&B Album, along with a dance song I did with Dave Mathias is up. So, fingers crossed. You just never know. You just keep going. You just, live what you enjoy, and you put that energy out there, and it comes back to you.
That's right. Live what you enjoy.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to ask you, do you write social conscious music?
I don't have any that's released, but like back in the day, a friend of mine, I remember, had a song that we wrote together called Cares of the World, but it was never released. Basically the idea is that, as we all know, and it's so funny because that's like 10 years ago, nothing's really changed so much as far as where we are as people, how we need to grow, how we need to work together. But that is something that I'd like to do more of going forward. My brother does have a music foundation, so we like to help, kids and such, like to try to get into the industry, and people as well that are already in the industry that are maybe struggling a bit or don't know how to move throughout the ins and outs. It does take a certain amount of flexibility, as we all know, to be able to navigate, the ever-changing world of music. So to answer your question with a long answer, Skyler, nothing has been released, but definitely have dabbled in that area. Yeah.
You know why it hasn't been released?
Because we never completed it. It's a demo. It was never put on a project. We didn't do a one-off or anything, but it's a great song. It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can have an amazing song.
Yeah.
And amazing songs at social consciousness.
Yeah.
But there's no platform for it. So even if you guys would have finished the song, there's no place for it to go, because the labels in America, as I find it, they're not willing to take a chance on some social conscious music. Right?
I agree with you. I do. And I think that, if your name value is of a, we are the world type thing, you can do whatever you want to do. However, my mindset is that, with you being able to have your own label these days or make your own moves, if you can market things in a way that is substantial so that you get attention from people, you can connect it to influencers. There's all kinds of ways to go about it. But in my opinion, I have to work in a sense of not working from a major label standpoint, but creating my own rules as I go along, which I've been able to do, because like years ago when I first started, no one would have said, you're an independent artist with your own label with your brother. There's no way you're going to be on the Billboard charts. That can't happen. You're not going to, be up for a Grammy consideration. You're not on Sony, Right. But if you figure out things, you just have to be diligent, like with anything. Put your all into it. Don't give up. You don't take no for an answer. If you get a no from someone, you're asking the wrong person. That's my mantra. And you keep going. Yeah. But I do think, Skyler, that there's a way, if you want it to happen, it can happen. It takes time.
In social conscious music, that's music for global change.
Yes, no doubt.
If you can write any type of lyrics at all, write some that could heal us and help us, right?
I think that's a valid point, but I also think maybe, we could sneak some of those global conscious thoughts into our love songs, into our dance songs, giving people something to think about when they're at the club. You know what I mean? If you can sort of mesh those worlds, maybe that's a way to sort of, get the ball rolling or open the doors a little more. It's just a thought that came to me.
I look at it like this. I believe more people want to get along than people that don't.
I agree.
And that's what we got to encourage and inspire more of that. You know what I'm saying? I have this feeling that there's going to be some kind of shift happening, right?
It has to be, because where else are we going to go?
That's exactly right. And thank you for coming on, first of all, right?
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Tom, you got a question?
You mentioned it already. You try and champion independent artists and artists that try and help people into the industry with the label and with what you do. Is that because did you find it difficult yourself, sort of getting into the industry? Do you feel you're trying to give back to people and help people in that sense because you felt you had issues yourself, or what was the driving force behind why you do what you do with your label?
Well, for me personally, I started my own label in 2000, when it wasn't like the cool thing necessarily to do to have your own indie label. People were like, how are you going to do this? I don't understand. How are you going to be seen? You don't have the big machine behind you. But my thought was that I need to control what it is I want to say. I'm an artist. I'm a creator. So I don't want someone, in the marketing department telling me that doesn't work for you. You look like this, sing that. I needed to do what I wanted to do. So I infused that into my music. My first album was like an alternative pop sort of record, which is different than what I do now, but it's music, right? I love music. So I should be able to do all kinds of music. That's another argument. We'll talk about that, next. I was telling my friends that, this is the way to go. So I would try to help people and I would read books. I would connect with entertainment attorneys. And I didn't have like large budgets of money, but the thing I did do, it was instilled at me at a young age. I modeled from the age of 12 to 18. I saved all my money to put into, I didn't know what I was going to do with it at the time. I thought I was going to, just use it for something with my career. But it ended up at that time, okay, I'm going to do my own album. I did do my own album. That album was #1 out of 25,000 independently released albums that year. From that point forward, second, third album comes, I've licensed 48 songs to MTV. I'm putting it all in a nutshell. Believe me, this blood, sweat, and tears was all into it. But, the point is consistency. So I try to instill that in friends that are artists and musicians and help them along the way. So that's what my brother and I, always wanted to do. Sometimes though, you have friends who, you love them to pieces, but they don't want to listen and they think they know more. And not coming from the standpoint of me being cocky, but coming from the standpoint of, look at what I've done. Do you know what I mean? So I want to help you get to a higher level as well. Let's grow together. But what's interesting about that is that a lot of, I haven't talked about this. This will be the first time I'll really say this, is that a lot of people that you're friends with in the industry aren't really your friends because it's some sort of a weird competition.
Right.
And I would say to them, we're not competing. We're all wonderful artists in our own rights. Be you. Don't be me. I'm not going to try to be Beyonce. Let Beyonce be her. Let's be, who we are. So in trying to, get back to your full question, Tom, it's like, the idea still that I have to this day, and I have with my brother, which is why, he has the foundation, Live the Dream Tour Foundation. We have our label, LA International Records, with Leon Silvers, is that like we want to, infuse a place in the market of good music and allowing artists to be themselves or teaching them how to be themselves, but only if you want to learn. If you don't want to learn, I won't waste your time. You don't waste mine. And that's kind of the place I'm at now. I can smile about it, but I was frustrated for many moons because I could see things, you can see things in other people that that could be just switched a little bit and then you can do this, but they won't listen to you. So now I'm at a place okay, if you want to come to me to help, I'll help you. If not, we'll still be cool. We'll keep it moving, but let's not waste each other's time. So yeah.
Thank you.
It sounds like LA to me.
But it's the music industry. It is the music industry, I guess it's entertainment as a whole. Do you know what I mean?
LA's a trip. I mean, everybody. I remember I would ask singers to come over. Hey, man, can you come over and sing some background? Come, just come over.
Yeah.
4:00. Just come over tomorrow, right? And they never show up. Nobody ever show up, right? So I said, okay, I'm gonna have to start doing them myself. And so that's why I created a certain type of, just everybody, your own voice, know your harmony, when to cut off the note, when to give the note emotion, all that stuff. Like, it better than anybody else that you're going to teach.
That's right.
Right. Background singing is way harder than singing lead.
Oh, yeah. The blending, the essence of the feel of what you're doing is so important. And if you talk about LA, of course, we can laugh and joke. The flake factor's high here, about 50% flake factor. But there are great people that are here. I'm not knocking that whatsoever. But the idea is that really, because I think people have to be so tough and strong, to be in major cities, New York, Chicago, whatever, that the mentality still spills over to friendships. And you're like, hey, you're in a safe space with me. All I want to do is help. So we don't have to be rough with each other because, there's nothing to fear when it's all in love. And I think if you can instill that in more of our artists in the musical community, we could come together and maybe be more of a force to even, do more global music like you talked about, but it's a matter of us all coming together and making that statement as opposed to the idea of being separate. I'm fighting against you. There's no fight. We're all, amazing in our own rights. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Ryan, you got a question?
Let's keep talking about the 80s.
I saw you kind of light up when it was like 80s.
Yeah, listen, I'm a product of the 80s too. So who did you want to be with, with your hairbrush in the bedroom just singing to yourself? Me personally, I mean, I love how it's like us four singers here just getting to talk, except I'm terrible at it and just karaoke, but I wanted to be Prince. Who did you look up to when you were young?
Well, that's a great question too, Ryan. Well, I come from a household where music was just all around us. Like my brother and I would wake up, on weekends to, my mom cleaning the house with gospel music playing. It's like, so that was instilled in us. I was born in North Carolina. So it's like, in a sense of like, you're going to go to church on Sunday, my grandmother, but my mom wasn't like so pushy with that kind of a thing. But the thing is that we loved all kinds of music, but she played a lot of the older 70s music at that time. So it was like, I was like singing songs from the Manhattans at like a young age, or, Earth, Wind and Fire, or The Emotions, or Natalie Cole. So I'm going to stick with Natalie Cole for a second, because somehow, even though she was really hitting like in the early 70s, her hits were stemming over, as we know, to 80s and forward. So my mom would be playing these older songs in the 80s. I was like looking at Natalie Cole as this amazing artist who could sing anything. And that was something to me that was like sort of like there was a light bulb that went off in my head at a young age, where I was thinking to myself, I don't have to stick to one kind of music. Like I can sing anything as long as you can sing and you love it and you enjoy it. Why put me in a box of like, Nikkole only sings this? No, a singer sings anything. So, Natalie Cole was a big artist. I loved Whitney Houston, of course. Going back again, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin. These are all the people that I heard growing up, in addition to Jimi Hendrix, Journey. So like your powerhouse groups, the Commodores, of course, and so it's just an incredible, musical journey that I had at a young age. My mom would even play this album that came out in the 70s by Isaac Hayes, and I think it was a song called "I Stand Accused." Now, what 4-year-old girl in the 80s is like, into this like hot buttered soul kind of concept? You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's who I was. So I was sort of a unique individual, and my brother and I and cousins, like during that time before I moved to Los Angeles at 6, we would put together little groups and shows and promote it to our families, and we sold tickets. So we always had this mindset of like, we're going to perform, and we would perform these songs. So we would perform songs from these groups, and so going back to the 80s as well, that's where my love of music also with Solar, with Leon Silver. So we're talking about Shalimar, love Jody Watley's voice. We're talking about the Whispers, Lakeside, Midnight Star, all of these
okay.
incredible artists that sort of shaped who I am, of this like amalgamation of, just good music, Yeah.
The bass player of Commodores, Ronald LaPred,
Yes.
who wrote Brick House and Zoom, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm doing a song with him right now after 35 years.
What?
He lives in Auckland, New Zealand, and he wanted me to write the bridge to it, but they're putting all these famous country singers on, and that dude Ruben Studdard is supposed to be on this thing, and
That's amazing.
it's to give to education in Alabama,
I
right?
love that. Yes.
Because 35 years ago, I did a song with Ronald, and we did the same thing. So they asked us to do it again after all these years. That's so cool, right? Well, the fact that we could give back.
Yeah. I love that.
Use a percentage of if you go pay an agent 15%, imagine helping some foundations keep their doors open.
That's the part. Yeah.
Tom, you got a question?
A little bit about, if you don't mind, about your album Vulnerable. What's the kind of message behind it, and what was the thought process behind some of the tracks that you got on that?
Well, with this particular outing, I knew I wanted to do something different than my previous projects. And so I was just trying to figure out with my brother, who do I want to produce this album? I needed someone who could relate to my experiences, but who also knew how to make a hit. And so he and I were talking one night at his house, and we're listening to music, and all of a sudden a Shalimar song came on, and we're like, what? And then my brother says, what about Leon Silvers? And I said, well, what about Leon Silvers? Let's, okay. So we gave him a call. He was amenable. He came down to our studio, and we talked, and we felt like family, like from the first, connection. And what we decided to do, because I've sometimes have jumped the gun in the past and said, yes, let's work together right away, and then shouldn't have said it that fast. But I learned my lessons. So in this case, I was like, let's try it out. Let's just try a couple songs. Let's try 3 songs. So we did, and it was fantastic. And I knew from that point that the album's going to be called Vulnerable because of some things that I had gone through personally, relationship-wise, life-wise. And I wanted to tell a true story of something that I felt people could relate to, and cut through all the BS of material that's out there, but say, hey, this is something that I feel the emotions of, and I feel it being organic, and she's telling her truth. And that's what this outing has been with Vulnerable, wanting to weave a story, like telling a story through an album like you used to do back in the day. Because now, as we know, people are more about what's that hot single, put the next one out. And so I didn't care about that. I understand marketing wise what that means, algorithms, the whole thing. But this to me was a project of love and something that was needed in the music world. And that's what we did with Vulnerable. And to me, it's one of my favorite projects to date. I know a lot of people say that about their most recent things that they do, but I sincerely mean that. I mean, whatever I do next, I'm sure is going to be wonderful and exciting. But this is super special to me. Yeah. The way we wrote it in the studio, like Leon and I would write on the spot. I would sing, it wasn't like you came in and had a song ready and you sing the song like cookie cutter. It was like, what do we feel now in this moment? And the other songwriters, amazing people that came in and helped on the project as well. And I couldn't be more honored, by like Ricky Freeze, playing bass and writing a song. I mean, we all know he's with the time, but he worked with Leon and Solar and so many projects. So just, Ray Parker Jr. wrote a song with us. Like, it's just like all these incredible people that came in. That's and I was amazing. Like, I know, I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, oh my God, this is incredible. But it felt like,
what did you, what? Wait a minute, what?
Did you get a call?
Seriously, it felt like, do you know what I mean? That moment of like, how it is. You look at yourself and you're like, I'm working hard. I'm continuing to grow. Yeah. But then when you have like people you've looked up to, like you grew up listening to, and they're telling you, oh, that's hot. I like that. You know what I mean? It's a surreal thing.
No, it's like you've arrived, right?
It is. But you're still like, really? Me? You're talking to me? Like, okay. It's that kind of thing, even though you feel, you know what I mean? It's professional and the whole thing, but it's something different when it comes from your idols, if you will,
Yeah. Ryan, you got a question?
I read an interview that you have a 5-octave vocal range.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, it's so funny, Ryan, that you should mention that. I just have to say, so I went to this event very quickly on Saturday for Felton Pilot's birthday, who's from Confunction, one of the original members of Confunction. And so I met Hubert Laws. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but from the Laws family. Anyway, an amazing artist. Yes. So I'm talking to him at the table. He's just talking to me. He's like, "You don't know who I am." I go, I do. Like, he just didn't think I would know who he was. I go, "I do." So anyway, we exchange information. He wants to hear my music. He listens to the music and going to the 5-octave range. So my second single, I'm showcasing some of the higher range in the song. And he messaged me and he goes, "Oh my God, Nikkole, I listened to that song and your voice gave me chills." Yeah. And I had no idea that you could, you had such a range and that you were such a soulful singer. Now that, Ryan, like, I was like, what? This is like, I can't even believe that. So it touched on the fact that I forgot about the most amazing part of it. He then equated me to Minnie Riperton, because he worked with Minnie Riperton.
Right. Now, she had some octaves.
And she had some octaves, and he's like, "You remind me of Minnie Riperton." I could have just died there. Like, I have that text message. You don't do it just because, I want to make money from this, or we'd probably be doing something different. You do it because you love it. And then to have, the adoration and the recognition from people that you just are in awe of, it just shows you, all right, I'm a good student of this and I'll keep learning. Yeah. That's the way I feel.
That's amazing. Yeah. For those of you out there in YouTube land who, maybe not understand what a 5-octave vocal range, you're talking like, Mariah Carey, one of my ex-girlfriends, it ended amicably, but you're talking Mariah Carey type of vocals here. So, that's amazing. Like, wow. Yes, when I read that, I was like, okay, like, she can sing.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, and Mariah Carey grew up listening to Minnie Riperton. So I'm sure when she's had the comparison, she's been like, okay.
Yeah, I remember her telling me that. I remember.
Remember when you guys were dating? I remember that. So
what a beautiful gift to have.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? What a beautiful gift to have that.
I don't take it for granted. I don't take anything, any of the gifts for granted. But, with the gifts, you do apply the lessons learned, and you continue working and growing and surrounding yourself by amazing people that just open you up, Yeah.
So, for us, it's about music for global change. I'm going to keep drilling that, if you can see.
You should.
Man on a mission.
Taking your voice and putting it on a song that's going to change the world could be even more powerful.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to it. I think it's an amazing, gift that we could give back to the world. I think that we should be doing more songs that are of healing.
What would you write about?
Oh my God, that's a lot to unpack right now. There's so many things going on, but one thing I would like to thread back in is not to have this divisiveness that seems to be really prevalent in, what's going on right now in the world. So I would like to talk more about, the sense that we are all one. We're human beings, forget this whole race thing. I mean, I know we need to know our history. We need to understand where we came from so that we don't repeat things. However, the divisiveness that's happening now that I see is kind of scary to me. And I'd like to heal, whatever we need to do to heal that. I'd like to talk about that.
Listen, namaste, namaste, namaste.
Yes.
Bless you for the privilege of your time to come on and share
your
feelings with us, okay?
Take care.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Nikkole.
Thanks for joining us.
If we all get together, music can save the world. Yeah. Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all come together, music can save the world. There's an urgency facing our humanity.
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.